what does it mean to have equality? What does that mean exactly? And where are the boundaries of equality? Should there be boundaries to equality? It seems that this is a question that has been at the center of nearly all public conversations throughout my entire life. From equal rights for minorities, equal rights for women, equal rights for immigrants, equal rights for lesbians, gays, and transgender, equal access to education, equal access to health care, equal opportunity, socio and economic equality. It seems the topic of equality has been the hinge upon which so much of our public conversation and debate has swung for the past 60 or more years. And yet, as we keep pursuing this and trying to figure it out and understand it, it seems to me, doesn't it seem to you as well, that somehow we've grown more polarized, more separate, more stratified, and more divided every time we try to gain inequality? There seems to be some sort of angry or even violent response from those who have something to lose from equality. And now on this weekend in which we're dealing with the aftermath of a shooting in South Carolina and a national debate about flying a Confederate flag, a symbol of racism. And we sit here trying to sort out a Supreme Court decision on the equal right to marriage for people who are homosexual. On this weekend, we get these 3 readings all about equality. And whether that's coincidence or serendipity or divine intervention, I'll leave it to you to sort that out and determine. But let's unpack these readings for a moment and see what they're saying to us. That first reading from Wisdom, and how can you argue with something that comes from a book called Wisdom? It tells us, it reminds us, it emphasizes that every single human being is created in the divine image of God's own nature. Every person. It tells us, that book of Wisdom, that all creation and every creature is made wholesome. An expression of God's own self. And then we get this reading, this letter from Paul to the Corinthians, which is all about equality, mostly about socioeconomic equality, but really it's about the dignity of all people. He writes to the Corinthians and he reminds them, you have so much. You have been given wealth and education and love. You have so much. How about sharing some of what you have in abundance with others who are lacking? And how about opening yourselves up to receive what others have in abundance? And the subtext there, of course, is even though you have so much, there's still a few things you're lacking. such as charity and, in fact, equality, which wasn't part of the culture in Corinth. And then we have this wonderful gospel from Mark, in which he compares and contrasts two people who could not be more unequal, who could not be different in their profiles within that culture. A hemorrhaging woman who would have been marginalized, and a synagogue official who would have been a center of the community, a social pillar. One who invites Jesus to his house, the other who isn't even supposed to be near Jesus. One who asks Jesus to reach out and touch his daughter, the other who wants to reach out herself and touch Jesus. We have one whose faith is strong, the hemorrhaging woman, and one whose faith is faltering, the synagogue official who just gives up in despair when he hears this news of his daughter. And the message Jesus gives to the hemorrhaging woman is, your faith has saved you. And the message he gives to the synagogue official is, do not be afraid, have faith. But to Jesus, there's no distinction between these two. They both receive his love and his compassion equally. He does not favor one over another, even though we often do. He does not. What do we do with this? How do we live out a call for equality, which is such an abstract, intangible concept, in a world that's so concrete and realistic? If we can't really achieve the ideal, should we give up? I wish I had the answer to this. I wish I knew how we can foster the equality that Christ calls us to. I wish I had those words of wisdom to share and bring clarity. But I believe three things. One, that equality is really all about acknowledging, affirming, and raising up the very sacred and divine dignity and value of every single being, everyone. Secondly, I believe that equality is something we need to pursue, even if we don't fully understand it, even if we don't know how we can pursue it and achieve it. But as disciples of this Jesus, equality is something we need to pursue. And third, I believe that equality is not something we're ever going to achieve or experience by virtue of the flags we fly or the laws of the land. Equality is something that can only be achieved through the disposition of a loving heart.